Human being of Earth, it is high time for you to change for the better and for the good. Translation, Barbara Lotz, Germany. Revision, Mariann Uehlinger. Posted on 30th December, 2009 to FIGU. Also appeared in FIGU Special Bulletin 50. This is a preliminary translation. English. Human being of Earth, it is high time for you to change for the better and for the good. By Billy Eduard Albert Meier.
The period of time of the 21st century and of the third millennium brings about gigantic and cataclysmal events for you, your Earth and its nature, which you will have to meet with intellect and rationality. The new century and millennium will bring events which you would never have imagined and which aren't solely of cosmic natural origin, but rather created by you due to your intellect and your irrationality. It is not only those events which keep rolling across the worlds and universes endlessly, but rather those which you are to blame for. The coming events are therefore bearing witness to what you have destructively created by your obstinacy and are furthermore creating with regard to the destruction of nature, climate change and impairment of the atmosphere. However, they also bear witness to the senselessness of your worldwide transportation of goods and of mass tourism, whereby diseases, epidemics as well as strange seeds and plants are being spread into foreign countries, among human beings, animals and among creatures as well as within the plant life, whereby many deaths are being brought about and changes and destructions are being caused in fauna and flora. Where in the world have you gone and where are you continuing to go on in your obstinacy, human being of Earth, out of which you are causing pernicious changes and damage to nature and to the planet, are living in hatred and urge for revenge and wars, considering that you have spent a mere 250 years during the last 10,000 years, during which no acts of war had swept across the earth, then this should be an impulse for you to finally create peace. Truly, there is neither a God nor a religion which can bring you true love, peace, freedom and harmony, no matter how submissively fawning you are beseechingly throwing yourselves into the dust in ardent prayer. Only you and you alone have the power and the might to free yourself from all the terrible things, for you are your own Lord and Master, and only you and you alone determine your destiny and that of the whole of humankind. There is no God and no religion, which you may expect help from and which can free you from all evil and bad. Only you and you alone bear the responsibility for anything and everything of your thoughts, feelings, deeds and actions, therefore also only you alone are able to free yourself from hatred, urge for revenge, jealousy, urge for retaliation, lovelessness, unpeace and unfreedom as well as from dualton, strife, squabble, discord, disharmony, murder and manslaughter, from war, crimes of revolt, criminality and all the inhumane. However, up until now you haven't done this, but you have rather steadily let yourself fall further and deeper into the abyss of ruin. And you continue with this in like manner, whereas your steadily growing overpopulation is the main reason that all your self-created terrible things and destructive machinations are increasing further. You are hastening into emptiness with your thoughts and feelings, human being of Earth, straight into a dark and deadly future, and you'll only be able to avert the worst of all, if you come to your senses, to rationality and intellect. You must put a stop to the senseless growth of the overpopulation as well as to all wars, all terror, hatred and unfreedom, and you must desist from your urge for revenge and jealousy, from your urge for retribution and quarrelsomeness as well as from your disinterest towards your fellow human beings and nature, the planet and its fauna and flora. You must overcome and put an end to your lovelessness, human being of Earth, in order to create true love and feelings for others within yourself, both for yourself and for your fellow human beings all over the world as well as for the fauna and flora, the whole nature and Earth itself. Human being of Earth, you must work your way out of the darkness of your unintellect and your irrationality, which you haven't fallen into. Out of the darkness, where the demons of hatred, of war, of murder and killing, of unpeace, of jealousy, of peacelessness, disharmony, of urge for retribution and for revenge, of hatred and of unfreedom have dug their claws into you, snarling and grinning diabolically. And if you do not turn round, in order to finally find a new beginning in true love and freedom, in peace and harmony together with your earthly humankind as a whole, then you will, in your obstinate delusion and in your addiction to creating an overpopulation as well as in your destructiveness, continue to extinguish yourself as well as the fauna and flora. If you do not decide for the better and the good and do not integrate yourself into the natural laws and do not follow them, then your own acting resulting from your obstinacy will crush you in the time to come, and mercilessly, like with a deadly slamming fist of a giant. It will also be the fist of your megalomania, by which you personally will determine your destiny. Owing to your obstinacy, your megalomania and your self-aggrandizement, you provoke your own revenge on yourself, formed from your own irrationality, which demands accountability from you. You cannot abdicate the responsibility for your doings and actions, as well as not for your false thoughts and feelings, by which you are leading yourself into disaster and are suggestively and forcefully bringing about an evil destiny. You are not leading your life according to the true sense of existence, for truthfully it is to a great extent only lies and deception, filled with hate, greed, lust and addiction, with murder, war and with other crimes and acts of revolt. Up until now, you have not fulfilled your life's purpose/duty, but rather made use of your existence for waging war, for murdering and killing, for destruction, for the fulfillment of your greed for might, for envy, stinginess and for retaliation and revenge, for hatred of every kind and for greedy financial enrichment. Thus you have lost the being human in the real and true sense, and with it also your own dignity and the venerability for the ones next to you, the fellow human beings, the whole humankind, the planet and its nature, fauna and flora. You have not lived and do not live according to the creative natural laws, but only according to tremendously fallible laws, which you have made yourself and which will lead you far away from what is rightful, fair and righteous. Truly, you have disparagingly trampled true love, life's benevolence and all the laws of nature into the dirt, while the dignity enshrined therein was sadly accepting your devilish actions, giving you a last chance over and over again, in order to eventually remind you of true love and faithfulness in the course of time and enabling you to find your way back to the natural, as this is given by the natural principles of existence. However, you, human being of Earth, have consciously disregarded any ever so good opportunity and disparagingly dragged it through the mire, for due to your obstinacy, your self-aggrandizement, and due to your megalomania, you wanted and still want to lead a life which satisfies your evil degeneracies. And today, as a matter of fact, you are leading a life in selfishness, lust and greed, in hatred, overbearance, greed for might and war, in destruction, jealousy, strife and discord, as well as in unpeace, unfreedom, disharmony and lovelessness. You neither bother about those next to you, even less about your fellow human being and about humankind as a whole, as well as not about good interpersonal relationships, nor about dignity and true humanity. This, however, takes its toll not only in the present time, but also in the future through the coming events and happenings, which can hardly be averted, if at all. Human being of Earth, truly, you must undertake everything in order to being able to face this great and new time in a good and valuable measure, and so therefore, finally free yourself from your traditional, false and most destructive way of life, from your hatred against those next to you, against people who think differently and those who are of another religion. Also free yourself from your quarrelsomeness, from your mad addiction to war, revenge and retaliation. Move on from jealousy, stinginess and discord, as well as from the addiction to great riches, resentment and to numerous offspring, for all of these are degeneracies of evil. Avoid further overpopulation and turn yourself to the true joys of life, which are true and honest love, real peace, true freedom and ample harmony. Human being of Earth, all of this concerns not only your whole humankind, but mainly you as an individual, for all those good many individuals form the humankind of this world, which is a diabolical and demonic world full of disharmony and darkness, because you have turned it into this as an individual and together with humankind as a whole. So you as an individual are asked to direct your life, and the existence of the planet as well as its nature and fauna and flora towards the true life, love, peace, freedom and harmony. You must leave the paths of ruin, the path of disharmony with nature and the creative principles, on which you are wandering about. Truly, however, you are still wandering about on the path of death, straight into a bottomless abyss full of incredible torment and deadly ruin, which is lying in wait for you in order to tear you into its blood-sucking claws and to crush you mercilessly. You must free yourself from your going astray, Otherwise the bony claw-armed fist of your unintellect and your irrationality will snatch you from your life and cast you into the abyss of the all-ruining destruction. You still have a last true chance, which you can use, if you turn to everything that brings you further in a rational way, whereby the rational also demands that you become conscious of your responsibility and put an end to the increase of your overpopulation. You as a single human being of this earth must do everything conceivably possible, good and right, in order to be able to preserve yourself and humankind as a whole, as well as nature and its fauna and flora, from the tormentful end, which the cataclysmal events and occurrences are already giving evidence of at the present time, and which will continue to turn out to be even worse in the time to come. Human being of Earth, you still have a really very last chance, which you, however, will have to seize now, because otherwise you will not be able to prevent the worst anymore. Now do not believe that all those false prophets and scientists are right, who play down everything and declare everything as completely natural with respect to the degenerating development of nature, of the climate, and the false development regarding your consciousness and behavior. Consider that time doesn't stand still, and that your devastating malicious machinations will therefore continue to proceed, if you do not finally consciously call a halt to them. If you do not do this, then it will be too late one unpleasant day, and there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth, as it is written from time immemorial. And the old prophecies of the true prophets have proved to be true over thousands of years up to this new time, and this is exactly what they will do furthermore, but you can still avert much thereof, if you let your rationality and your intellect prevail and henceforth do the right things. Already for decades all kinds of natural catastrophes have disastrously increased, as of the degeneracies among human beings. And all this bears witness that the cataclysms cannot be stopped any more, but can only be mitigated in their worst forms. But, human being of Earth, you must finally advance the evolution of your consciousness and take the responsibility into your own hands, instead of demanding it from a god or a religion and from the belief in these, since help will never come from them, but solely from yourself. You yourself must direct your thoughts and feelings as well as your actions, doings and activities, because it is now a requirement. You as human being of Earth must learn to esteem the basic elements and components of nature and of life, even though your consciousness is still limited, and to bring your own world of thoughts and feelings to react, in order not to furthermore destroy in your delusion myriad-fold life of nature and its fauna and flora, the climate of Earth, and finally yourself. Therefore, human being of Earth, I raise my voice and shout out the well-appropriate warning and my demand, so that you may eventually awaken from your lethargy of disregarding the facts as well as from your destructive rage. It is a warning, which is based on the present events and on all those that have been appearing for a long time, which will carry further and further into the future to a terrible extent. I have already called in the past, but my calling has faded away in the desert of your irrationality and your unintellect. The time has already come at which the climatic conditions all over the world have starkly changed, for which you bear the blame, and enormous natural disasters are occurring, and this will also continuously have an effect in the future through extreme storms of all kinds. Everything has already escalated to such an extent that a vast number of human lives, running into hundreds of thousands and into millions, have been lost and will continue to be lost. Together with enormous destruction of all human achievements, also more and more diseases and epidemics will spread, which will take a heavy toll on the lives of your species, human being of Earth. All disaster will expand steadily further on. Destructions on mountains through rock slides due to the thawing of the permafrost will take place, and due to volcanic activity, large portions of mountains will be blasted away, which will rush down into the valley as mud flows, destroying everything, wiping out entire villages and cities and claiming a great many human lives. The glaciers and poles are melting on a worldwide scale, and also more and more deserts are forming. The world climate is warming up rapidly, and this leads to enormous climatic upheavals, which will bring more and more great heat waves and cold waves, conflagrations, droughts, inundations, snowstorms, hailstorms, and tremendously powerful storms in its wake. Also earthquakes and seaquakes will occur with increasing frequency, as will enormous tsunamis in the oceans and lakes resulting therefrom. Thus, further devastating destruction of nature and of your achievements arise. And vast landscapes will be destroyed by natural disasters and due to the growth of the overpopulation, since you require more and more housing and living space. A great number of natural disasters and wars as well as machinations of sex and acts of revolt are increasingly leading to mass deaths of your species. Enormous material damage to land, houses and to various buildings, to streets, railway tracks, mountain torrents, creeks, rivers and lakes will arise. And as was frequently said in the past, more and more human lives will be lost through the climate-induced upheavals and thunderstorms as well as due to mass murders, for the rapid and increasing climate warming and climate change is not only changing the entire nature and the ocean currents, which will cause massive upheavals, but also your consciousness in a depraving way. Through this you, human being of Earth, will become more and more indifferent, and without feelings towards yourself and towards your fellow human beings, thus your good interpersonal relationships will also increasingly suffer from it and will become continuously rare. The entire plant world and animal kingdom are also changing catastrophically, whereby a great number of mutations come into existence, also among you, whereby above all else the overpopulation bears the blame for everything. This is indisputably the utmost evil on earth, because the further and the faster the population grows, the greater, more extensive and more insolvable all the problems become that result from it. As to that, there are degeneracies existing across the board. Therefore in medicine, in the decreasing drinking water, in the depleting consumption of energy as well as in the steadily increasing worldwide, amply destroying and epidemic spreading mass tourism, in terrorism, in wars as well as in other armed conflicts. The wars, instigated by your might-greedy and felonious mightful ones of state, won't come to an end, if you, human being of Earth, don't finally put a stop to all the felonious acts as an individual and as a mass of people. However, family tragedies also become more and more rampant, as do the many cases of killing by your psychically disturbed adolescents and also by older offenders, who are trying to solve their problems with a flight into murdering. However, the escalating problems are also multiplying due to the air pollution, water pollution and pollution of the environment as well as due to the growing crime and due to the felonies of revolt, as well as due to the general health, consciousness-related, psychic and physical weakening, which you have already fallen prey to for a long time and are increasingly falling prey to. Beneficial leisure activities also belong to the problems which can no longer be coped with, for instead of engaging in such an activity, you are only seeking crazy pleasure and idleness, or extreme and life-endangering sports, because you, human being of Earth, are not even able to appraise your own life as valuable anymore, let alone the one of the person next to you and the one of the fellow human being. Inevitably, your hard-hearted and coarsened towards your fellow human beings and nature as well as towards the fauna and flora also increases as a result of this. You, human being of Earth, are becoming increasingly predisposed to allergies and diseases, to epidemics and degeneracies of the sexual life, to psychic degeneracies, to depressions and suicides, to psychopathic and paranoid moods, from which murders and mass murders as well as maltreatments of fellow humans are resulting, which are increasingly being perpetrated by teenagers, because their whole education is failing completely in every respect. You are increasingly appearing as a chicken-hearted person, who is throwing his life away, because you have become incapable and afraid of bearing pain and misery and of ending your days through a natural death. And you have also become chicken-hearted with respect to helping those next to you and your fellow human beings, when they are being harassed or attacked by others, as you have also become chicken-hearted with regard to helping the aged and handicapped people. Human being of Earth, you are causing disaster for the planet and for all life on an unprecedented scale. The destructions of nature as well as of fauna and flora and of life caused by you are sweeping over the whole Earth. You have caused enormous damage, destructions as well as hardship and misery and keep on causing them. You have straightened torrents and creeks and have dug drainage ditches across the wetlands, in order to make them habitable to you. So the creeks and rivulets became powerful rivers, rivers became raging currents, while wild waters are bursting their banks and causing enormous inundations, which are devastating all land, destroying a vast number of your achievements and existences, and together with other catastrophes are claiming hundreds of thousands and millions of human lives. And all of what happens today in no way means the end of the worldwide catastrophes, which you bear the blame for triggering, for only in the now new millennium, everything is getting even worse, because nature will rise up even more gigantically against your environment, destroying insanity and attain an extent which bears comparison with the primeval times of Earth. Considering and analyzing the coming events and catastrophes, which are going to break upon Earth, the climate and you, human being of Earth, then it is clearly and obviously recognizable that solely you bear the blame for the whole misery, namely, as already explained, due to the relentlessly increasing overpopulation, as a result of which all the enormous problems are arising. This can no longer be stopped with simple means, but only by means of worldwide radical and rigorous laws and measures, whose compliance you must ensure. The blame for the coming disaster and chaos as well as catastrophes arises fundamentally due to your gigantic mass of humankind, even if you as a pathologically dumb and irresponsible scientist or know-it-all claim the opposite. Solely your overpopulation is the comprehensive factor of all terrible things, namely concerning the energy and drinking water shortage as well as regarding the destruction of nature and the environment, and also with regard to climate warming, new diseases and epidemics, war crimes, hatred, unfreedom, lovelessness, unpeace and disharmony, and so on and so forth. And the more your overpopulation is growing, the more extensive and unmanageable all the problems and terrible things become. If an existing problem of this or that kind resulting from the overpopulation is being approached and a solution is being found and carried into effect, then the whole thing is being overtaken by emerging problems of the same or as similar or new kind during the time of the implementation of the solution, because the world population is increasing further by hundreds of millions of people during the time at which solutions are being implemented, whereby the solutions worked out become null and void and are being overtaken by similar new problems. Also the asylum system, the new Nazi organizations and extremists organizations, mass migrations, worldwide terrorism and new wars will spread and constantly cause more unpeace, hardship and misery and other new big problems. Very harsh and effective measures must be taken against all terrible things that come from you, human being of the earth, and which you have unleashed against all life, against nature, against the climate, against the atmosphere, against the bodies of water as well as against fauna and flora and against the whole planet due to the irrationality of the cultivated overpopulation. This also includes measures against the world domination craving machinations of those mightful ones of state, who feloniously trigger wars and terror all over the world, execute wars and acts of terrorism themselves and precipitate other countries into chaos, whereas they also intend to trample the mentality of the people into the dirt as well as break and eradicate their religion and politics. As long as you submit to these machinations and don't take a stand against these felonies and don't bring the right people into the corresponding governmental positions, until then you will create neither true love, true peace, true freedom nor harmony on earth. Due to the rapid growth of your humankind, human being of earth, you are forced to destroy the environment and to exploit the resources of earth more and with increasing frequency, in order to meet everyone's increasing needs. But all these needs increase to an even greater extent with the growing number of your humanity, whereby both nature and the fauna and flora as well as the climate and the entire environment are being increasingly affected and destroyed. The planet itself is being tormented and slowly destroyed, because atomic and other types of explosions caused by wars are disturbing the structure of the earth and triggering earthquakes and seaquakes as well as volcanic eruptions. Waters, nature, the atmosphere and the near-Earth space are becoming polluted and poisoned, while the primeval forests are greedily destroyed and razed. Already in September 1964 I wrote the following to all international governments. The need of the hour and of the future is that the insanity of the overpopulation must finally be stopped. Although the climate change triggered by humankind cannot be stopped any more through this, the destructions, demolishments, the chaos and the catastrophes can nevertheless be gotten under control somewhat through rationality and intellect, for example by rebuilding natural wetlands and seizing the overexploitation of the planet as well as of nature and fauna and flora, because only in this way can the worst still be avoided. However, this requires that the insanity of the overpopulation is being stopped by effective legal measures. The overpopulation, that is to say the world population, must be most urgently gotten under control and reduced by means of a worldwide controlled birth stop, because only through this can all the in every respect increasing needs of humankind and the further destructions connected with it finally be brought to an end. Very much has already been set in motion that the old prophecies are being fulfilled, wherefore it is also necessary to take steps against it. The pollution of the environment through fossil fuel engines of all kinds as well as through chimneys and so on must be gotten under control most urgently, together with all other forms of environmental pollution and atmospheric contamination. It is also of the most vital necessity to keep endangered avalanche zones and inundation areas clear of all human buildings of every description, such as residential buildings and factories and so on. Wetlands and so on must be given back to nature as natural water collection areas for floodwaters. Residential buildings and factories and so on must no longer be built along torrents, creeks, at lakefronts, in or on avalanche slopes or plains endangered by water, and so on. Moreover, precautionary measures must most urgently be taken along creeks, rivers, lakes, streets, residential areas, slopes and mountains and so on, by raising very strong and tall control structures in endangered places, where wild waters overflow or mudflows, snow avalanches and mudslides as well as mountain slides can possibly come down and cause damage, in order to preserve houses, streets, paths and railway lines from undercutting, inundation, spillage and from being torn away. This will be necessary in many places, because much of the predicted chaos and the catastrophes will unfortunately already be unavoidable, and time is of the essence and is getting short. Therefore action is called for, and this is the responsibility of the entire earthly humankind. Human being of Earth must take action, before it is definitely too late and nothing at all can be done anymore, in order to stop the irresponsibly triggered process of the destruction of the climate, of the fauna and flora as well as of nature and of the planet, and the extinction of humankind. Where are you going, humankind of this earth? Quo vadis, humanitas? You are straying down the path of darkness, on the path leading to ruin with no return. Save yourself, because it isn't too late yet for a complete change in order to walk on the path of light, of the creative natural, on the light path of the truth of the ever-present creative principles, the path of the good itself. Human being, turn your back on your present life and find your way back to the creative natural laws and recommendations. Find your way back to the true path of the real life. However, the way cannot be found and taken through religion or sectarianism. Therefore, it isn't satisfying that you hurry to church daily or every Sunday, in order to appear brilliant there. That why you of all people are one of those, who are diligent churchgoers, in order to listen to the word of the clergyman at every opportunity and, if possible, to sit in the front row right beside him, so that everyone can see you well and notice that you are diligently listening to the word of God and are so close to the clergyman, are going to the mosque, to the temple, to the synagogue or into any house of prayer, in order to pray, or that not a single word of the ministering religious representative slips your attention. Human being, such doing is no law of the creative truth, nor a creative natural foreordination or regulation, and it isn't the sense of life. If you cannot find the path of truth from your own cognition, and do not profoundly understand the word of truth, place your trust in it and follow it, then it will be better for you, if you crawl away into the deepest slough of disgrace. If you are not treading the path of the truth of the creative natural laws and recommendations, then let at least those, who want to pursue it and are looking for the effective truth, find this path unhindered. Do not curse and condemn those who are searching for the truth, for their stride, and their presence on the pathway of truth are not for their own glory and not for shining like a beryl, but for the evolution of their consciousness, as is predefined for the human being by the creative laws as the sense of life. And showed therein is also the entire human behavior in every respect, namely with regard to the fellow human beings, to humanity, nature, fauna and flora, the climate of the world and the planet itself. If you act contrary to this, however, human being of earth, then your own judgment will befall you, before you become aware of this, because the era of the coming events is approaching and there is no more time left to gamble with the further cultivation of the overpopulation and with the destruction of the climate, as you have done this up to now as an individual and as the mass of humankind. For far too long, you have gambled with all terrible things and treated everything abominably, but now it's the final straw, for it is said already since time immemorial, The jug goes to the well until it breaks. Humankind and human being is an individual, whether poor or rich, whether small, tall, beggar or workman, human being in any position, it concerns you. My words are addressed to you. Turn around and take the path of the true life, as determined by the creative natural laws and recommendations, for time is getting short, until great disaster will befall the world and you and demand accountability from you for all the destructions that you have caused among humankind and to the whole nature, to the fauna and flora, to the climate, to the atmosphere as well as to the bodies of water and elsewhere around due to the overpopulation. In the scriptures of the millenniums is written, love your next one as yourself, because he is your own brother or your own sister, into whom life has been breathed. Therefore, human being, put an end to all your hatred, to your greed, to the daily strife, to the murderous wars and acts of terrorism, to all your egotism, self-aggrandizement, to your cravings for revenge, to your jealousy, greed for might and urge for retaliation. Turn your back on your murdering, deceitful attacks, killing and torturing, on prostitution, on hatred of every kind, on greed and avarice, on your dishonesty, unfairness and unrighteousness as well as on your addictions, vices and on anything else degenerate. Love those next to you as yourself, love your fellow human beings, nature, fauna and flora as well as the planet, which is your home and your ages. Therefore is written, pay attention to the signs of the times, which will be in the sky, when the time is near at which cataclysmal events will take place. Human being is an individual, heed these signs of the times, learn to understand them and don't misinterpret them. Be conscious of their truth and do not regard them as some strange miracles, because a miracle is only a word as a term, the value of which, however, carries no weight. Regard the signs for what they are, the product of a mightful law, which you have broken by the overpopulation, and all the problems resulting from this and thereby have caused enormous changes and destructions in nature, in fauna and flora as well as of the climate and of the planet itself, and have brought plight, murder, crime, war, terror, misery and ruin upon the world and humankind. The signs in the sky are mainly signs of the consequences of human irrationality. Signs which become apparent as devastating storms of all kind, because the climate warming and climate destruction as well as the environmental destruction have developed and continue to form into unimaginable catastrophes. This is already part of everyday life, but you, human being of Earth, still haven't recognized and haven't understood that you bear the blame for these evil events yourself. Guilty, because you continue to drive up overpopulation and are thereby creating always more gigantic insoluble problems, which you cannot master anymore. Therefore turn around, before it is definitely too late, because you can still do something in order to avoid the major catastrophes. But act fast, because otherwise it will be too late, because then, the disastrous consequences of your heinous doings cannot be stopped any more, and nature, life, the planet and the climate will let the results of human irrationality unleash on humankind and the planet with a primeval gave-all. Even though the process of the destruction of climate and nature can hardly be stopped any more, it is still possible to some degree if the overpopulation is decreased by a radical cessation of births, which would reduce all of the problems. If this doesn't happen, then the problems of all kinds will go sky-high and cannot be overcome anymore. As a result of this, however, the existence of the entire humankind and of the planet is being put at risk and brought into question. Therefore, it may be that the earthly humankind will eradicate and exterminate itself one day due to its irrationality and due to its unintellect and egoism. And there will not be an imaginatively fabulated God, who will have an ear for your humankind, human being of Earth, in order to answer your senseless submissive pleas for forgiveness and prevention of all evil, because since no such God exists, it also can neither listen to anything nor provide any help either. Fundamentally, it is you alone, human being of Earth, who is your own ruler and master, for you alone are God and therefore comprehensively bear the responsibility for all your doing and acting, for all your thoughts and feelings as well as for your entire destiny, of which you alone are the architect. Therefore, it is solely within your own discretion, within yourself, within your thoughts and feelings as well as within your rationality, your intellect and responsibility to eventually bring about true love, freedom, harmony and true peace within yourself and among the entire earthly humankind. Consider, human being of earth, you alone are urged to and able to accomplish this and to create a paradise on earth, where the high values of love, of freedom and harmony and of peace are being honored, appreciated and held in high esteem, because there is neither a God creator nor any other God, Holy One, angel or tin God, who could do this for you. You alone are the ruler and master of your life and of all the things that you ever think up and cause by your feelings, deeds and actions. Consequently, you and you alone bear full responsibility for anything and everything.
Billy, May 21st, 2009, 18.38 Semjes Silver Star Center, Hinterst Midroute.